system.
Right, and with this movement of just the scientific materialism, you get moral relativism many times.
Yes.
Where what you're doing is okay as long as you're okay with it, and what you think, what's good for you is fine. What's good for me is something else, and there's no objective moral base many times, and so you get. It could be dangerous. Well, it could be quite dangerous.
Yes, there's a reason for that too. Let me ask you guys a question. What is a moral? Define a moral for me.
Right. Well, for me, what I would believe to be a moral probably comes from the Christian Judeo religion, if I were to give it roots. But that would be
the difference between right and wrong.
Yeah, don't hurt someone, don't steal from someone. Don't lie, those types of things.
Basic human rights.
As much as I love you, I'm going to have to educate you.
Okay, bring it.
Those are virtues.
Okay.
Those are not morals. This is why I'm asking you the question, to show you that you guys are much more intelligent than most people on this planet. And you're having a discussion right now about morals without a clear distinction being made, and this is what gets people confused, and this is exactly why these problems happen. A moral is a code of conduct that is life affirmative. A virtue is a code of conduct that may be a relationship affirmative or positive in your religion or in your culture or in your society. Like there's a lot of things that we think of as polite. Like if you put your hand on
what we're striving to be, but what we're not actually achieving.
So morality is not right or wrong then?
No. Well, sort of. What I'm saying is virtues are the things that we call doing good. But what you do to do good here is different than what you do in the Middle East than in Iceland. And you see these cultural differences, like I was about to say. In some cultures, like I believe it's the African culture, putting your hand on someone's head is disgusting. Mm-hmm. There's some cultures that don't like that at all. That's, don't get that close to me.
It's like a sign of contempt, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't remember. It has to do with, I think, the soul leaves through the head or something. I don't remember the background on it. But in our culture, if especially a strong male puts his hand on your head, it's as though he's acknowledging you. Good boy. I'm only making the point that what we think of as right is only right within the context of our own programming, our own social and cultural framework.
Sure.
But a moral is a code of conduct.
Don't we have to build off of that?
Yeah, but we're going backwards to morals because that's what we have to build on. A moral is a code of conduct that is life affirmative. When I was a soldier in the 82nd Airborne Division, I had a soldier's manual. It said who to kill and who not to kill. That is not a moral code. It is an ethical code. Ethics can be group specific, can be religion specific. In other words, if you work for UPS, there could be different ethics than if you work for FedEx, right? So, but morals, let's look at what are some of the things that we have to understand as morals if we're going to survive in another 50 years on this planet. Do we have to agree that taking care of the soil is critical?
Sure.
How far can we go chemically poisoning the soil?
Well, wouldn't that be?
Not very far.
Wouldn't that be though? Like me, if I say don't hurt anybody, wouldn't that also be a moral? I mean, if we all hurt each other, we wouldn't survive either.
That's technically immoral because you're diminishing the chances of life if you believe that everybody's here is as a unique contributor.
So you're
to the
saying
world.
Morals contribute to life.
Morals contribute to the sustenance of survivability of life itself.
Would it be moral then to procreate?
It would be moral to procreate unless procreation was actually decreasing your chances of survival. Like right now we're at a tipping point. We're consuming the planet and its resources at a far faster pace than the planet can regenerate it. So the more we have kids right now, the more potentially immoral it is, because once you cross the tipping point, the quality of life for each child born gets to be less and less. Do you see? Can you project that into the future? Like, in other words, if we're already running out of resources, look, there's hardly any clean water left, drinkable water. Only 1% to 2% of the water in the world is drinkable. About 99.9% of it is now heavily poisoned with toxins, killing fish off, causing sex changes in fish and other animals, and the long, long list of things.
So then, from that standpoint, you could argue that it's morally
correct or right for some sort of a world leader that would not allow us to have more than 1 or 2 children.
Or sterilize, or...
If, you see, that's true, but in my opinion, the first prerogative of that decision would be you would have to effectively educate people, because if they weren't able to understand why that was happening, why would they want to repress their sex urge, which is much stronger than the ego's sense of self-control? I mean, how many times have you guys had sex when you knew you probably shouldn't?
Yeah.
Right?
Couple.
There's a couple,
at least 2 times.
A few times.
There's a thing.
Maybe twice.
There's a saying: the stiff cock has no consciousness. Right? It just go. But
That's a bumper sticker.
yeah,
Stiff cock. Yeah.
but do you?
You know what I think it is? I think
It's very complex, is what it is.
it is, but I think
We're not high enough yet.
I think people, if for things to progress and move forward, one of the key elements is that people have to voluntarily want to do so.
They do.
Adam mentioned sterilization or whatever.
Yeah.
It wouldn't work if everybody was forced. But if everybody decided, hey, we should probably not have as many kids or whatever, totally different.
So it goes back to what I said: education. If you can give people good data to say, look, this is how much water we have, this is how much farmable land we have, this is how much food we can produce a year, and this is how many people we can feed. If you look at what it takes, we have to have air to breathe. And I could sit here and give you the statistics on air. Like, we've got cities in the world where the volume of oxygen now is low enough that old people just start dying off. You got Mexico City, you got places like Denver, where it wasn't that long ago we had 22% oxygen in the atmosphere. Now it's in some places down as low as 17, heading for 16, and I can't remember how low, but we can't go too much lower and human life can't exist because the oxygen saturation isn't high enough. So we've got pollution levels that are high enough in some places it's killing people off, and we are poisoning the environment. I mean, look, there's a reason we had to go to unleaded gas. I used to live in Los Angeles when you could drive into Los Angeles.
I just learned about this.
Yeah, Michael would.
Yes, I had never heard of this. Where you're going right now?
Yeah, well, I used to drive into Los Angeles from San Diego, and you could see a dome of smog that was like somebody had exploded a pile of red brick. You know, that red, like Sedona, Arizona dust? It would be like you would drive into this cloud, and your depth perception, your depth changes because it was like you were in a room full of dust. I would wheeze. My father used to tell me that radiator hoses in Los Angeles would only last about 2 years before the rubber would completely crumble and just rot off the car's engine. 2 or 3 years. Tires would rot. Right? So they had to start cleaning this. It was causing emphysema, it was causing huge amounts of death. And this was right. So one of the things it was doing is lead in gasoline. So they had to switch to unleaded. The point that I'm making is if you look at the statistics right now show it's 10 times safer to breathe the air outside of any building than it is inside the building because of the chemicals. But really, what am I saying? I'm just trying to outline a few things. We have to have water. We have to have food. We have to have warmth. We have to have the ability to heat our homes, and we have to have shelter. There's certain criteria that humans have to have in order to live effectively, and the bigger the number of people you get, the more of a challenge it is to meet those criteria. So if you study the history of tribal societies, they found, for example, if a tribe got bigger than about 55 people, they needed to gather more resources than they could traveling around on foot. There wasn't enough bear or deer or elk to kill. They would, you see what I'm pointing?
At some